Seen Seo Joo-Heon and Yoo Ji-ha standing confused in front of the door. Seo Joo-Heon asked Yoo Ji-ha for an explanation why the rope relic was currently seen cleaning Yoo Ji-ha's room vigorously. Seo Joo-Heon did not understand why the rope relic was doing that, even though Seo Joo-Heon did not tell him to, which Yoo Ji-ha also did not seem to know why. Yoo Ji-ha was annoyed at Seo Joo-Heon, who seemed to dislike that the rope relic was doing Yoo Ji-ha's orders. On the other hand, Yoo Ji-ha was relieved to see that the rope relic was willing to help him clean up his room. But Yoo Ji-ha's relief had to stop when the rope relic showed Yoo Ji-ha the bill that had to be paid for his room cleaning services. Yoo Ji-ha was very surprised when he saw the bill to be paid, but Relic Tailai said if he worked to get paid. Yoo Ji-ha seemed unacceptable because Relic Tailai suddenly did something he didn't ask and gave him a bill. Relic Tailai did not accept if he was considered robbing when he did the job and saw that. Seo Joo-Heon laughed. Even Seo Joo-Heon praised the rope relic, who had grown up and become smart. The rope relic forced Yoo Ji-ha. If he did not pay, then the rope relic would take Yoo Ji-ha's cell phone. Yoo Ji-ha chased the rope relic, who tried to take his cell phone. Seo Joo-Heon, who saw it, became confused why the rope relic was so eager for money. Seo Joo-Heon's cell phone rang as he tried to think of what happened to the rope relic. Seo Joo-Heon picked up the phone, and when the person on the other side asked if he was talking to Seo Joo-Heon, the person introduced himself as Jacob Gray. Seo Joo-Heon was surprised to hear a name that he seemed to know, because Jacob Gray is the president of the country of America. Jacob asked about the two of them who were supposed to meet some time ago, but Seo Joo-Heon never met him. Seo Joo-Heon admitted that he was suddenly trapped in the tomb. Seo Joo-Heon answered Julian's question if he was now talking to President Jacob Gray. Seo Joo-Heon, who had not hung up the call, heard Jacob, who regretted Seo Joo-Heon, who could not meet him at that time because he was guided by someone else. Seo Joo-Heon was surprised when he heard President Jacob accuse him of having found the relic in the tomb. Seo Joo-Heon tried to dodge by pretending not to know what President Jacob said, but President Jacob asked Seo Joo-Heon to admit if he really had stolen the relic belonging to the Pentagon by using the wine bottle relic. Seo Joo-Heon and Julian were now surprised when they found out that President Jacob had checked the history of using the relic and assumed that Julian was working with Seo Joo-Heon. Seo Joo-Heon asks Julian if he didn't really register the relic with Pandora, but unfortunately Julian did. Seo Joo-Heon scolds Julian for registering the relic with Pandora, but Julian registered the relic before he got his memory back, and he didn't know that Pandora could do such a thing. Since Julian only followed the procedure and registered the relic, Seo Joo-Heon told Julian to log back into Pandora and cancel the proof of ownership, and Julian was also not allowed to use the registered relic. Jacob asked why Seo Joo-Heon was silent and thought that he had accused correctly. Seo Joo-Heon admitted that the accusation made by Jacob was the truth. Seo Joo-Heon admitted that he had indeed found a treasure full of relics, but he reasoned that he did not know that it belonged to the Pentagon. Jacob confirmed that the relic taken by Seo Joo-Heon previously belonged to Pandora. Even Jacob was able to provide proof that the relic belonged to the Pentagon, and asked Seo Joo-Heon to return the relic belonging to the Pentagon. Seo Joo-Heon understood that, and he promised to return it later. With that, Jacob would arrange a place and date they would meet. After that, the phone was hung up, but Seo was worried if Seo Joo-Heon would really hand over the relic belonging to the Pentagon. But Seo Joo-Heon intended to make a copy and give it to the Pentagon. But Julian disagreed with it because he thought doing so would only make the situation worse. But Seo Joo-Heon was sure that they wouldn't find out, and Seo Joo-Heon walked to meet Yoo Ji-ha, who seemed to be still rolled up by the rope relic. Julian didn't understand why Seo Joo-Heon promised to return it when she would just make a copy of the relic and give it to Jacob. But Seo Joo-Heon knew what kind of people they were because honestly, if he could meet Jacob before then, he would get a lot of information. After that, they made a copy of the relic and made Yoo Ji-ha try it using the Da Vinci relic this time. Because the relic is very strong with its power that can make a perfect copy, then Seo Joo-Heon is sure if the copy will not be caught. But unfortunately, Yoo Ji-ha is not used to using the Da Vinci relic, so the results that come out when he tries it are not so perfectly successful. But even though not everyone can activate the Da Vinci relic, but Yoo Ji-ha managed to do it on his first try. Seo Joo-Heon felt proud to see Yoo Ji-ha, who would become a king of fraud in the future armed with the Da Vinci relic. Even though they didn't have much time, but Yoo Ji-ha was able to make the fake relic. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon told Yoo Ji-ha to rest because now Seo Joo-Heon would do his part. Yoo Ji-ha was surprised when he saw Seo Joo-Heon take out the plague relic. Seo Joo-Heon intended to make an imperfect copy and make it explode after giving diarrhea disease to his target. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon managed to give several sources of diarrhea disease to the mock relic. After that, Seo Joo-Heon left for the promised place. Meanwhile, the radio in the car was still discussing the chaos that occurred in the previous tomb. Seo assumed that no one knew if the tomb had been successfully completed. But Julian did not understand why the American government did not notify its citizens if the relic had all been taken. But Seo Joo-Heon did not wonder if the person who deliberately did this was the President Jacob. Seo just remembered that the president should be elected 5 years from now. Seo seemed doubtful if the president would start another war this time, but Seo Joo-Heon couldn't be sure. Jacob Gray used his power to compete with other countries and started wars just for the sake of relics, and that made Jacob the one who caused the world war. And that reason also makes Kara act as she wants because Jacob has the same way of thinking as Kara. Because from the beginning, Jacob is an unpredictable person. Now their car is seen getting closer to its destination, and Seo Joo-Heon asks them all to prepare because they will soon enter the enemy's cage. The White House, seeing Seo Joo-Heon and Julian who were sitting in the conference room there, they looked up at the sound of the door opening and revealing the president and several subordinates who immediately asked about the relic. Seo Joo-Heon smiled when suddenly the American president came and immediately asked for the relic. Seo Joo-Heon took out a bag filled with all the relics belonging to the Pentagon. Seo Joo-Heon did not confirm the rumors that the American president had heard about him being a bad person. After that, several more people were seen entering. Seo Joo-Heon asked who the people who had just entered were, and it turned out that the people were official relic restorer. The American president invited them in to check whether Seo Joo-Heon really gave the original relic. Official relic restorer is a group of people who have extraordinary abilities in restoring relics. They are also the ones who make other restorers look like fraudsters, but they are still people who are experts in this field. But Seo Joo-Heon made the replica using the Da Vinci relic, and he was confident in the ability of the relic. Seo Joo-Heon waited for them to check the relic he brought. The President of America asked about the authenticity of the relic in front of him. Seo Joo-Heon and Julian also waited for his decision with misgivings. Even Julian looked a little anxious there, but the officers said if all the relics were genuine and there was not a single copy there, Seo Joo-Heon allowed them to examine it more deeply, and the American president was happy because it turned out that Seo Joo-Heon was different from what he had heard from the rumors. Seo Joo-Heon was happy that she now had the president's trust and intended to ask for some information. Seo Joo-Heon wanted to ask the president a few things, but when she just started talking, a relic was seen being forcibly pulled from her body. The President of the United States who saw it wondered why Seo Joo-Heon was acting strangely. Seo Joo-Heon tried to cover it up even though he knew that a relic was forcibly taken from him. Meanwhile, the relic that was taken from the body of Seo Joo-Heon landed hard on the lawn of the White House, and it turned out to be Anubis. Instantly, Anubis was thrown. He was angry and upset, but he looked around him. He found relics from Egyptian mythology that had been destroyed. One of the relics there warned Anubis to go away from there, and a voice from another relic surprised him. But before he could act, Anubis was stabbed by a sword. The perpetrator of the stabbing was another relic who boldly attacked Anubis, who called himself the commander. The relic there did not believe it and said that soon Anubis would die and disappear, because they had destroyed Anubis' core through the sword. Anubis tried to hold his consciousness and told them that their leader would be angry when he found out about this. But Anubis was surprised to find out that it was the relic leader who told Anubis to do this, because the relic leader felt that Anubis was useless and could not fight Seo Joo-Heon. The relic leader also said that relics from ancient Egypt were all useless garbage. And that's why the relics who attacked Anubis there were doing the leader's orders to set an example to other relics not to submit to humans. Anubis felt everything was unfair because even after he was caught by Seo Joo-Heon, he still obeyed the words of the relic leader and tried to kill Seo Joo-Heon. But unfortunately, the relics there didn't seem to care and considered Anubis to have failed to carry out his duties. After that, they forcibly pulled out the sword stuck in Anubis' body. An annoying light emanated from Anubis' body, and slowly his body began to disappear. Even the other relics said that the relic leader was unfair to them. A voice from the rope relic entered Anubis's ear. When he got there, the rope relic saw Anubis in a sad state. Immediately, Anubis said if he was dying, the rope relic wanted to bring Joo-Heon to him now. But it seemed that Anubis could not last that long because his body was slowly disappearing. Anubis wanted the rope relic to convey his message to Seo Joo-Heon. Anubis tried to say a very important information and told the rope relic to deliver it to Seo Joo-Heon. But before Anubis could say a word, someone came to them. The rope relic looked wary of those people. But unfortunately, Anubis slowly disappeared, and his body changed into his relic form. The rope relic restrained the movement of the people who tried to pick up the relics scattered in the courtyard, while on the other hand, Seo Joo-Heon was still discussing something with the president so that he could not realize what was happening. The American president said that he would provide information, but with a condition. The American president asked Seo Joo-Heon for help to conquer the divination tomb together with him, but a voice entered his head, making Seo Joo-Heon surprised to hear the rope relic calling him. Seo Joo-Heon became unfocused and suspicious, but Seo Joo-Heon tried to ignore the incoming voice. But the voice was heard again, and this time the situation became more precarious. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon stopped her conversation with the American president because she felt something was wrong. Joo-Heon and Seo were surprised when they saw Seo Joo-Heon, who came out of the room just to check something, because she received the help signal given by the rope relic earlier. Joo-Heon looked doubtful. Even Seo Joo-Heon herself was not sure what exactly happened, so that the rope relic asked for her help. Seo Joo-Heon could feel the aura of the rope relic coming from the park there. There was the sound of the rope relic trying to drive away the people there who wanted to take the relic belonging to Seo Joo-Heon. When he arrived there, Seo Joo-Heon saw the rope relic being confronted by two people there. Seo Joo-Heon asked what happened, and the rope relic was happy to hear Seo Joo-Heon's voice. Seo Joo-Heon scolded the two people who were previously dealing with the rope relic. The relic restorer admitted that they came after hearing the news that there was a broken relic in the yard, and it turned out that the two of them intended to repair the broken relic there, but the rope relic prevented it. Seo Joo-Heon, who saw that, was surprised when he saw that the core of the relic was destroyed. Joo-Heon was surprised when he saw something between the relics. There was an Anubis relic that was also damaged there. Joo-Heon was surprised when he saw the relic restorer holding the Anubis relic that was almost destroyed. However, those people underestimated Yoo-Ji-ha because they felt that they were better than Yoo-Ji-ha. Those people began to mention that in the rules made by Pandora only a professional relic restorer can repair relics with tier S or above. The people mocked Yoo-Ji-ha as an amateur who should not be able to repair the relic, and they said Yoo-Ji-ha was the one who caused Richard to be caught. The people seemed angry that Yoo-Ji-ha got a role model for them caught, and with that they said that they were the ones who would handle the repair of the relic. Even the President of America, who had just arrived, suddenly agreed to the relic restorer's decision. Seo Joo-Heon was upset because they seemed to be looking down on Yoo-Ji-ha. Yoo-Ji-ha agreed with it and asked the relic restorer to repair the relic now in front of him. Seo Joo-Heon asked what Yoo-Ji-ha was trying to do, but he argued that they had upset him. Seo Joo-Heon agreed to that and asked the relic restorer to fix the relic here now. Seo Joo-Heon even threatened if there was a mistake or they could not fix the relic. The relic restorers seemed confident in their abilities, and with that they tried to use their powers to repair the Anubis relic. Seo Joo-Heon then looked at Yoo-Ji-ha to check their abilities, but Yoo-Ji-ha smiled happily because he saw the relic restorers unable to repair the Anubis relic. The relic restorers looked panicked as they were unable to repair the Anubis relic as Yoo-Ji-ha had predicted. Yoo-Ji-ha then started his act and said that the relic restorers were not as good as he thought after he saw the way they held the relic. Because the damage done to the relic was not an ordinary damage, and he asked them to hand over the Anubis relic to him. At first, they seemed unwilling to give it to Yoo-Ji-ha, but he insisted on doing so. Seo Joo-Heon realized that repairing a relic that had suffered such severe damage was not something that could be done only with ordinary abilities. Although it was possible if Yoo-Ji-ha returned to his former form, but now Seo Joo-Heon was not sure if Yoo-Ji-ha would be able to do it now, because if he failed, they would not only lose Anubis, but Yoo-Ji-ha's confidence would also be shattered. Seeing Yoo-Ji-ha, who was still examining the relic in his hand. But Yoo-Ji-ha still didn't want to give up, and he would give an attempt to repair the relic. After his brush was attached to Anubis relic instantly, a dazzling light appeared and made everyone there surprised. Even Anubis was surprised because he could feel that his core had been repaired. Yoo-Ji-ha smiled happily when he managed to repair Anubis relic. Yoo-Ji-ha's relic brush asked Yoo-Ji-ha to stop because of the high level of difficulty and repair it later. Yoo-Ji-ha, who heard that, stopped his work because the durability of his relic brush was still weak now. And with that, Yoo-Ji-ha smiled proudly because he could prove if he managed to repair the relic to everyone there. The relic restorer did not want to believe what he saw, but the reality said otherwise. The relic Anubis was now back in use, and had changed his form back to his dog form. The rope relic that was happy to see Anubis come back to life wrapped itself around Anubis' neck. Even Seo Joo-Heon gave his praise to Yoo-Ji-ha, who managed to make Yoo-Ji-ha happy because he got praise. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon told Yoo-Ji-ha to fix the other relic, which made his pleasure disappear instantly. Yoo-Ji-ha seemed to protest with Seo Joo-Heon, who added to his workload. And the relic restorers intended to leave before they were stopped by Seo Joo-Heon, and asked them all to apologize to Yoo-Ji-ha for belittling him earlier. And with that, all the relic restorers who belittled Yoo-Ji-ha earlier apologized and left there. And after all the problems there were resolved, Seo Joo-Heon returned to the conference room to continue his discussion with the American president. And during the discussion, Seo Joo-Heon even had time to defame TBM, and he accused him if TBM tried to steal the relic belonging to the Pentagon. Seo Joo-Heon was happy when his provocation succeeded because he saw the angry face of the American president. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon managed to give a fake relic to the American president, and he also got a lot of information. Seeing Seo Joo-Heon, who was now on his bed resting, but he glanced in a direction, and saw Anubis standing there about to discuss something with Seo Joo-Heon. Anubis started his conversation by thanking Seo Joo-Heon for saving him. Anubis had previously thanked Yoo Ji-ha, and he also thanked Seo Joo-Heon for bringing Yoo Ji-ha with him. And with this, Anubis promised if he would follow Seo Joo-Heon and consider him as his owner. Seo Joo-Heon was happy to hear that from Anubis, and with that Seo Joo-Heon gave his first order. Seo Joo-Heon again reminded Anubis about the wanted paper he made before to kill Seo Joo-Heon, even though the information conveyed there was none of it true, but it made Seo Joo-Heon troubled because of the number of people who came to him. Even Seo Joo-Heon seemed to exaggerate it. Seo Joo-Heon gave Anubis the first mission to finish off the people who came to him thanks to the wanted paper made by Anubis himself, and Anubis also accepted the Seo Joo-Heon request. Will everything go smoothly?